I would definitely sign Valencia to pick up a point against Barça and later win one of the last two
Cavani
games.
goal, maybe?
If someone scores, it will be Cavani.
We are ahead of the big game, one of the biggest games of the season for Valencia. Barcelona coming to town on Saturday, and Valencia again is plagued with injuries. We mentioned Nico Gonzalez; he can't play because of his loan clause with Barcelona. Elias Moriba, Yunus Musa, Comert and Diakabi out in the defense. Lots of problems for Valencia. And then on the other side, of course, we have a Barça that we saw yesterday.
They are reeling, and they will surely want to make a statement.
They're a wounded animal, aren't they?
Yeah.
And to be fair to them, as much as they've had so many troubles and so many critics, and rightfully so in Europe, they've been doing the business in LaLiga. They only lost to Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, scoring for fun. How do you see Valencia ahead of this game? How do you think Gattuso is going to approach this match? Can he exploit maybe Barça, coming kind of shaky from this European night?
I think Valencia have their chances. I think that the game, it will really depend on the mentality which Barça bring to the table in this fixture, because in Valencia's case, you already said the large amount of problems that they have, especially with a couple of players who have been crucial in the first couple of months, especially Diakabi, which is the perfect example of how insisting on a player can make him to thrive to some extent and become a leader. Back in the day, Diakabi was one of the running joke, almost a meme, because he was very
still has his moments, loves a little
but you
card.
have to love the guy. You learn, if you are a Valencia fan, you eventually learn to love players like Diakabi, because they are imperfect, they have their imperfections, but you learn to love them that way, okay? And in Diakabi's case, back in the day, he was very wobbly at some times whenever feeling the pressure, and also those handballs inside the box didn't really make him any favors. It was like people were, campaigning for Diakabi, chopping off his arms, because there were like 6-7 handballs in the same season. It was absolutely mad.
Own goals. Even recently with was it away at Ceuta when he got a red card off the bench.
Yes, and Gattuso was, this close of kicking Diakabi around, and he kicked the cooler.
Yeah, cool. Thankfully, there's a cooler around to take the blame.
But missing out on Diakabi and his absence for the next 2 months, I believe he's going to be out till January. That is a big blow for Valencia's defense. Also, the problems in the midfield, obviously they were going to happen at some point, because you have only 5 players to 4-3-3 play style, and you don't have the depth that we were talking about earlier. Nico can't play because of obvious reasons. He's a Barcelona player, and that's why. But I think Yunus Musa's injury is more worrying for Valencia than Elias Moriba's.
I feel like Gattuso has given him a bit more protagonism this season. Kind of giving him the keys to be like a free role in the midfield.
Yeah, but
almost.
Someone had to, wear Carlos Soler's shoes and get into his shoes, and Yunus Musa was the chosen one mainly because of his pace, his speed, his ability to be, an all-around midfielder, trying to help over here, over there, being able to just go on runs with the ball, and also ultimately his ability to be in the proper place at the same whenever the time comes. So I think that Valencia have missed quite a lot in the last few seasons. A stopper, a number 6, a player who is able to hold his ground in the midfield. Since both Francisco Kelan and Kondogbia left Valencia 2 years ago, that issue hasn't been solved yet, and that's been plaguing Valencia's second halves this year, unfortunately for Gattuso. And to round it up, I think that both Gattuso and Xavi more or less have the same issue on their tenure as managers, and it is that they only know how to play one way. Gattuso only has an A plan, and Xavi only has an A plan. When the game goes uphill and things don't go according to plan, both find it very difficult to change mid-game their their play style and their tactics and their mindset ultimately. And I think that's going to be a battle of A plans to see which one prevails. And I think that whoever is able to impose his game plan is going to win it, because I don't see them course corrected in the second half like we have seen, for example, in the latest games against Elche, against Mallorca, against, I don't know, I think that the opposition has really learned how to read Gattuso's mind whenever the game doesn't go according to plan. And in that sense, I think it's the game possibly will be the most balanced on the benches. Inside the pitch, obviously Barca's squad is much deeper and more quality than Valencia's. But you shouldn't underappreciate the effect that this venue can have on the game. Because we've seen Barca struggle a lot when they had Messi back in the day, when coming over here. And we've seen Barca drowning in Mestalla many times in the last 10 years. So it could go both ways. I think it's possibly a much more balanced game that Barca fans would surely like. But at the same time, I have to recognize that Barca are, at least on paper, far superior than Valencia.
Absolutely. As you said, I think the stadium will be rocking. I think, as I said, Barca, Real Madrid, those are huge games. No matter what state Valencia is in, these are games that everyone turns up for. It's like a cauldron, the stadium, and they're going to try to get the 3 points. And any predictions for this game? I'm going to say, as much as I'm going to the stadium, so I would love the local team to get the win, but I'd say a draw. I think that's probably what's going to happen. I would say like a 1-1 draw. What do you think?
You know, Valencia's run of games before the World Cup break, it's grueling, very, very tough. You have Barca at home, you have Real Sociedad away from home, and you close it against Betis over here. So I think...
A rematch for the Copa del Rey final.
Yeah, I would surely sign now, if you place a contract over here, I would sign a draw against Barca. And I would sign picking up 4 points out of those 9, because Valencia really need to go on the winter break or in the World Cup break. They need to go on a high note, because if the 3 games go south and you link that to the disappointments in the last 3 match days, I think that the run would be already 6 games with not really the best sensation. So going into the break with that kind of drag or that kind of amount of rocks in your backpack can be very demanding on such a young squad. Remember, Valencia's squad is more or less the average on 23 years old, 22, 23 years old, which is madness. It's absolutely incredible to see a squad which perfectly could be a B team. For example, Barca's B team has a higher average age than Valencia's first side, and that's the truth. So I would definitely sign Valencia to pick up a point against Barca and later win one of the last 2
Cavani
games.
goal, maybe?
If someone scores, it will be Cavani. Yeah,
have you been impressed with him? He got a few goals now.
I
He's
have,
looking
but
good.
I have, but I haven't, because I had the best kind of reports about him, the way he takes care of himself, his you could say his discipline in every single level and in every single area. So he had a slow start, okay, because it's at the end of the day we're talking about a 35-year-old striker who played almost 0 games last season with Manchester United, but he has come over here with the kind of mentality of being a mentor-like figure to his teammates. Most of them could be, I won't say their kids, his kids, but I would say like younger brothers, most of them. So he is trying to become that kind of leader, mentor-like figure, as I said, his role. And he takes the penalties, he's taking over Carlos Soler's duties, and he's been so far, when he has had the chance to score, because that has been the issue in the latest games, he hasn't really enjoyed many chances, because Valencia didn't really generate those chances. But if he has the chance against Barca, I'm sure he will be on point, because at this point in his career, he has been ramping up to be 100% in shape for the World Cup, which possibly will be his last before his retirement. So, yeah, I definitely have
What a squad Uruguay is having, by the way. You know, with Arvin Nunes, with Fede Valverde, the season he's having. And speaking of Fede Valverde, one last question I want to ask you. You know, this season we're seeing Real Madrid obviously unbeaten, continuing from their form of last season. If anything, you know, looking even better in some aspects. On the other side, Barça, as we said, despite their troubles in Europe, still dominating LaLiga. You know, they lost in El Clasico, and then their 2 home games against Villarreal, Athletic Club. Now we're talking about, oh, you know, these teams are in form. Barca's gonna have troubles. They just go and score 3-4 goals and win the games. Do you think this La Liga is gonna go down to the wire and down to 90 plus, possibly 100 points for those 2 clubs?
I think that we could go to a 90 points champion, but I don't think that Barça or anyone will be able to keep the pace that Real Madrid are on at this point, because they have so many tools and so many resources, and so I don't know, they are on a point where they have really hit their stride and they seem to be unable to lose. You could see the other day against Leipzig that they could lose. Yeah, but
I guess you can argue it's a game that they could afford to lose.
Yeah, because it wasn't really, you know, if you have something on the line, you know that Real Madrid will bring their A game to that kind of match. But I think they are just too consistent. They have their midfield, their defense, Courtois at the back, Benzema in front, Vinicius, Rodrigo. I don't know. It's so resourceful, and Ancelotti knows to use them so well that Barca will keep stumbling because of mostly because of the youth of some of their players, and mostly because I don't think Xavi at this point is at the same managerial level as Ancelotti. Ancelotti is an absolute master of his craft, whereas Xavi, Gattuso, and other managers
learning on the job.
They are learning. You know, Ancelotti has 15 times the experience that Xavi has as a manager. He's been a manager for 5 seasons. In Qatar, 3 of them, and in Barca the last 2. Ancelotti has been a manager for 20 plus years, 30 years. And that's
everything in football you can imagine.
He knows his stuff. You know, he knows his stuff top to bottom, inside out. And that's why I think that Real Madrid, I won't say they are unbeatable, because they can have the eventual, you know, bad night here and there. But yeah, definitely I think that they could be aiming to a 90 plus point this season. And if they are able to achieve that, nobody will be able to beat them.
Yeah, I agree with you. Listen, Paco, thank you so much for joining me today. Tell the people where they can find you.
They can find me over here, okay? You can find me at, in Spanish, my handle is at Paco Polit on Twitter. In English, if you want me to read my angry rants whenever Valencia have a lackluster night, at Paco Polit, ENG, in English, obviously. You can listen to me at LaLiga Lowdown in our podcast.
Listen, follow Paco Polit for day-to-day things on Valencia. I'm going to include all these links in the description below. Thank you so much, and this is it, guys, from Stan Sports, over and out here in front of Mestalla. As I said, I'm going to be here on Sunday at the big place. We're going to see how they're going to deal with Barcelona, so stay locked here. Make sure you subscribe, hit that bell notification as well, and we'll see you soon from Valencia. Ciao.
Hello, subscribe to Stan Sport for La Liga content.